And
the bottom line is it's I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, am I right? It's ridiculous. It's literally out of left field to say earthquakes are man's carbon dioxide and cows farting.
Oh, it's absolute rubbish. And as I said, we could spend all day creating these kind of scary scenarios, and which ones you're going to deal with. It's not. This is part of the issue, of course, Alex. You see, is they're saying, oh, we got to create a risk-free world. It never was a risk-free world.
Well, I mean, now they've shifted because it's not global warming. Now they admit it's getting colder to climate stability. No climate. Well, I mean, everybody knows climate changes constantly. Look at the dinosaurs, what they lived in. I mean, it's just asinine.
Yes, yeah. Well, and of course, this is part of the way that the reason they've got away with it, and we might have talked about this briefly once before, but the Western view of the world is that change is very gradual over long periods of time. And that's a fundamental assumption that was made in order to accommodate Darwin and evolutionary theory and so on, and it was done by a geologist by the name of Charles Lyell. It's called uniformitarianism. That's built into the way that the public are educated about the
That's why they believe that we were only hit every million years or so by a mega asteroid. Now that they're studying the other planets, they go, no, looks like it's every 300 years on average. We're going to get hit by something really big.
Okay, now if you've got the public believing that change is very gradual over long periods of time, it allows them to say any change which is occurring naturally, oh, that's not natural. So what they're doing is they're telling you that natural events are unnatural. And, of course, that means they can never be wrong, and tomorrow there's going to be more natural.
But, I mean, look at volcanoes blowing up on the Aztecs and the Romans and the Greeks and the Japanese. I mean, there's constantly asteroids hitting and earthquakes and floods. I mean, this is normal.
Exactly. And when you start to plot out, for example, they're saying, oh, there's more tornadoes and they're more severe. When you look at the record, that's simply not the case. And in the U.S.,
they just got better radar to record them all now.
And also there are more people out there to see them. Okay, but one of the things in the U.S., for example, the worst loss of life to tornadoes in the U.S. was in 1905.
I know.
254 people died.
Look, that's why all these farmhouses in Texas and Kansas and Oklahoma and Illinois have got storm shelters in them.
Exactly. But as I said, this idea that they can present to you that normal change is not normal, and therefore if it's not normal, that automatically equates to, oh, well, it must be something that humans are doing. All right, and this is the common denominator. Oh, it's always got to be the blame of humans. And you see Osama bin Laden say, oh, it's the Americans causing global warming. Okay? Every time you look at any of these things, it always comes back to it's something that humans are doing that are causing these natural
But, I mean, look how ridiculous that is. AP says we don't even know if this is bin Laden, but the news is saying it's him. They might as well have the Cheshire Cat say it.
I was on a radio program a few years ago, and afterwards they showed me on the computer, they played my voice. Now, voice recognition and the computer printing that out is old hat. There's nothing new. But then they could take individual letters out of the words I had spoken, make up new words, and the computer would say that in my voice. And electronically, you wouldn't know that wasn't me. And there's a lawsuit, I believe it's still in the courts now, where they want to produce Elvis singing songs he never sang in his lifetime. And by taking individual notes out of his...
Exactly. They could fake video, audio, but they were so lazy they didn't even do that.
All
Quickly,
right,
some more...
There's no way of knowing that I think Osama bin Laden was dead. He's got liver, he's on dialysis. I don't, and $25 million award, you haven't heard a word about anybody trying to get that.
Now, Dr. Ball, we're going to come back in the final segment, and I want to go over a few of these other questions, like how much of an increase in taxes the middle-class people due to the global warming hoax? And you can answer that as a Canadian. Also, we got another question. Can you get into how a mild warming is good for farms and how cooling cycles are the abnormality in real change? I don't know if that's the case. I think change is the constant. And a few other questions for Dr. Tim Ball on the other side of this quick break. PrisonPlanet.tv, Infowars.com. We're very honored to have Dr. Ball with us today. From Austin, Texas, the home of the immortal Willie Nelson.
Sword and pistol by my side. Many a young maid lost her baubles to my trade.
Many a soldier
shed his lifeblood on my blade.
Republic. Dr. Tim Ball's in it. Most powerful film ever made. Available at Infowars.com. Get the DVD today. Got free T-shirt and video deals up there on the site. Got a few final questions for Dr. Tim Ball. In the last minute of the show, cue it up to Kramer talking about the Illuminati. We have all these shows talking about the Illuminati, the New World Order. Bloomberg comes out and says secret cabal of bankers run the planet. That's on Infowars.com. The Kramer clip's up there. It's insane. Dr. Tim Ball, why do you think they're just coming out with everything now and just throwing it in our face?
Well, in the sense of BS baffles brains, I guess. If you throw enough information out there, people get so confused they tend to turn off from it. And that's been one of the issues with the whole climate issue. Because, for example, Alex, I would not participate in debates. Not that I was afraid of a debate, but if I debated with a Greenpeace person, it was all about emotion and pointing fingers and not caring and all that rubbish. But if I debated with a scientist, then it was completely over people's heads. And one of the problems with this whole climate issue is people say, look, I'm lost here. I'm so confused, and I'm hearing this on one side and that on the other side, and I don't know enough.
Well, bottom line, we've caught these people in fraud. It's over. Yep. Dismantle it. Don't let them pass it and us anywhere else. This question about increased taxes on the middle class. We know $200 billion in the last 20 years has been spent in the U.S. alone pushing this propaganda.
Well, of course, anything that puts a tax on energy is going to be the perfect vehicle for a politician to grab taxes. I mean, I look at it, we talked earlier about the 3% carbon tax that was put on here in British Columbia, and it was generating huge amounts of revenue because it isn't just on the energy, the production of the energy and distribution of it, and at your gas pump, where so much of it goes to taxes, but that then passes down into every single thing that's produced. It is completely pervasive throughout the whole production part of the society.
And then they want to sell derivatives that are taxpayer-backed for the bankers. Last question here. Yeah. I got a question here saying, isn't mild warming good for the Earth?
I got the most vicious attacks when I wrote an article saying, look, there are some positive things about warming. The idea that warming is only negative has been one of the biases that they've pushed. Cooling is the greater threat, and we've seen this historically. The Little Ice Age back in the 16th and 17th century, and look at the conditions during the American War of Independence and what Washington faced, and food production. Absolutely. Cooling is a much greater threat, and yet we're preparing totally for warming, and it's just ludicrous.
Dr. Tim Ball, we're out of time. Have a great weekend. Thank you for your tireless fight in the face of all their intimidation and threats. You've been proven right. God bless you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Alex.
Take care. He writes for Canadian Free Press and other great publications. Just Google Dr. Tim Ball. All right, close out of the show. Here is Kramer on Mad Money talking about the Illuminati. Here it is.
That Geithner, this is AIG, Goldman, and you know what? The Bavarian Illuminati, the Trilateral Commission, Goldman Sachs, and the Queen of England are not all bad.
Wow. All right, we got to squeeze a couple of things in.
Sure.
All right, first of all, let's do this one. Apple? This iPad.
Right.
See that?
Well, look, I've got to tell you.
See that?
Buy an iPad.
That's good.
Well,
you want an iPad?
I will go to
them throwing
you
it
have to wait 60 days
in our face.
Yes.
Throwing it in our face. Constant little comments like that. Back Sunday, 4 to 6 p.m. Retransmission starts now with Dean Haglund, Bob Chapman. Big News Blitz right now. Get the free podcast in the listen page, Infowars.com.